Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Out and About in the UK. Coming up a little later in the show, we'll be at the Stationers' Hall in St Paul's for the annual ICAP dinner and auction. We'll also be meeting Joe Killoughery, director of the family-run business George Killoughery Limited, to find out more about the company. Well, there are many events and commemorations happening here in London to mark the centenary of the 1916 Rising. We went along to the Photographers Gallery just off Oxford Street for the screening of the highly acclaimed documentary 1916, The Irish Rebellion.
Easter Monday, April 1916. A small band of rebels, including poets and teachers, actors and workers, gathers in Dublin, intent on establishing an independent Irish Republic and bringing about an end to 700 years of British rule. The plan is to take control of key locations throughout the city before the British have time to act. Britain is engaged in war in Europe, where its army of millions, including 200,000 Irishmen, are suffering casualties on an unprecedented scale. Britain's distraction presents the rebels with an opportunity and a glimmer of hope.
So we're here in the Photographers Gallery and we're going to be screening the 1916 documentary that originated from the Notre Dame University. It was produced by Coco Television and its originator Briona Nic Dhiarmada is going to be here for a Q&A.
As the men and women of 1916 take on the might of the British Empire, their leaders are aware that they have little hope of success. And yet, the time has come. The most momentous week in Irish history is about to begin.
There is an element of deep historical self-consciousness where they stand in the centuries of Irish history.
I was an academic in UCD and then left UCD and went to work in RTE. Then I went to work in TG4, the Irish language television station. I began to direct and produce and write documentaries. And then I went back to academia to the University of Limerick. Then I went to America as a visitor and then they asked me to stay. So I can combine, the great thing is out there I'm a professor of Irish studies, but I'm also concurrent in film, theatre and television. So I can actually still make documentaries.
You can almost feel in 1916 the clock of civilization is beginning to turn and the old British Empire is beginning to come apart at the seams.
The Irish see what's going on in Ireland as being part and parcel of things that are happening through this world, that a new world is coming into being, and America was a part of that. And so when the emigres head over to America, they're not going to a foreign land. They're going to a land that they want Ireland to ultimately be.
We have a 3-part documentary series which has been shown on television. We also have a feature-length documentary which has been shown this evening, and that's been shown in film festivals all over the world, from Moscow to Tokyo to Jakarta. I mean, it's been extraordinary and really wonderful.
What they brought with them was this hunger for freedom. They saw it here in the United States.
They are looking at Ireland from an American perspective, and they've imbibed something of this can-do mentality, which is already part of the American psyche. This is the seedbed, in many ways, of 1916.
Liam Neeson came on board at a very early stage, and that was huge for us. You know, I mean, with Liam Neeson attached to this project, doors were open that would be remained closed and indeed slammed in our faces. So he was fantastic, and his voice is just glorious.
A republic had been proclaimed, and there was simply no way that the British government could tolerate a republic on its doorstep.
Britain pours 20,000 troops into the city to put down the poorly armed band of 2,000 rebels. Britain's military might is about to be directed on Dublin.
I think that the job of a documentary, a history documentary, is threefold. You tell why it happened, you tell how it happened, and you tell when it happened. So once you cover those bases, I think you're fairly okay. We didn't do any reconstructions. I was clear on that from the beginning, but because the archive is so amazing, you know, and archive is very expensive. Again, that's why we needed to raise a lot of funding for this. But the archive, the photographs are really, really amazing, and we also have incredible contributors, historians, top-class historians, again from Ireland, from Britain, from the US.
In many ways, the purpose of the Rising was not to win, it was to lose.
Pierce imagined executions as a great rebel weapon. Yes, they'll kill us, but our fame will live on.
The Rising is quickly followed by the Russian Revolution of 1917.
Lenin noticed the modernity and the theatre of it.
Americans can understand struggling and fighting for independence. The New York Times devoted 14 days to the Easter Rising on its front page.
PBS in the States has over 300 different stations are going to show it. We're going to get over 4,000 airings in the next 2 weeks. Australia, Canada, Finland, Spain, Argentina. Seriously, it's worldwide. It's quite extraordinary. But it's really wonderful to be here in London, actually, to be able to show this at the Photographers Gallery. It's a really special thing to be able to do.
It's an absolute honour to be working with the Photographers Gallery. This is the second screening that we've done of this film. We did one in BAFTA last week, which was quite a different kind of a scene. So for us to be here, I think it's quite significant.
After 6 days of fighting against 20,000 British troops, the rebels are forced to surrender. Yet their actions will change the course of Irish history, and their vision, enshrined in the proclamation, will in time inspire freedom movements around the world.
There's a dedicated website. If you go into Notre Dame, University of Notre Dame, 1916, there's a whole dedicated website there which gives you the whole background. It gives you trailers, it gives you all the information on screenings and all of that.
Well, many thanks there to Irish Film London for inviting us along to the screening of that wonderful documentary. Family-run businesses are very much a big part of the Irish community here in London, and we went along to speak to Joe Killoughery to talk to him about his company, which was started by his late father, George. Joe, tell us when George Killoughery Limited started up. It started by your dad originally.
Yeah, Mum and Dad incorporated George Killoughery Limited in 1965, so we have over 50 years of trading under our belt, which we're very proud of.
Tell us about your dad. He's originally from County Clare.
Yeah, Dad is from County Clare, one of 17, out of a small little country cottage in County Clare. Very proud Clare man. Mum was from the borders of Clare and Galway, a place called Gort. They came over here in the early 60s, married, and the story goes on.
What was London like for your dad when he first came over?
I think London was a very busy place from a very small place in Ireland. It was a land of opportunity, hard going for the Irish when they first landed here, but he made his way. He was a good communicator, good to enthuse people around him, and yeah, he made a fantastic business himself and Mum.
And I know your dad obviously comes from County Clare, but you also have taken up the County Clare passion as well. I know you're a very passionate Clare man.
Oh yes, very passionate. Clare is a great county, great for the music, love a bit of music, and yeah, that is my second home.
And over the years, the company would have taken on some very big jobs. And I know your brother did a lot of home movies back in the day. I think we're going to go head inside now and take a look at some of those.
Eamon was very passionate with the camera, and we were very, very lucky to have those archive movies, which we look back on and we think those are the days.
Tell us what's happening here.
This is the job in Wandsworth Underpass. This job was about 35 years ago, a major landmark event for us, a 3-day rail procession. So the trains finished on a Friday night, and on Tuesday morning they were running on a new bridge underpass through Wandsworth one-way system.
I suppose doing jobs, these type of jobs, the approach has changed, hasn't it?
Oh, massively. This job would be done completely different nowadays. At that time it was a groundbreaking job, but now it's kind of a run-of-the-mill job for everyone.
And what's changed in that period of time?
The health and safety issues have changed massively. The planning has changed. I think the calibre of people have changed. We were very lucky to have a very good leader on that job, who was my father, and that job was very successful. This is another job where we're lifting a 15-ton machine up 9 stories on a building in London, WX Block in Hammersmith, which is now being completely redeveloped. This was a very historic building in around Hammersmith at the time, where a lot of people came over, immigrants came over and got work.
When was this?
This is 30 years ago, and it was a kind of a top-down demolition. It's standard practice now, but at that time it was kind of state-of-the-art demolition.
And present day, the company is flourishing at the moment.
The company's going very good, yes. We've had a very hard recession over the last 5 years, but we're coming out of the recession, and our customers have stood by us, as with our staff, and things are looking good.
Tell us about the services that Killoughery's provide.
We provide recycled aggregates, skip and bin hire, demolition services, earthworks, plant hire in this site here.
And this is one of 3 sites in the Killoughery group.
Yeah, one of 3. This one here we process in approximately about 100 loads a day of recycled aggregate, be it hardcore or whatever it is, from demolition sites throughout the whole of London and the surrounding counties.
This is our largest site. This is a 7-acre site in Purfleet, down on the A13, very near the Dartford bridge crossing. My father looked at this site 30 odd years ago, saw an opportunity and established a business down this side of London.
And tell us about what's happening here today.
Today we've obviously got yourselves here, and we're crushing concrete. Our normal, our biggest job here is making materials, aggregates. We process about 100 loads a day, anything from 125 mil down to 10 mil. We have a waste transfer facility, and just the normal day-to-day routine of running lorries and keeping customers happy.
And what is the construction sector like in London right now?
I think it's as busy as it was in the last boom time. It's gone from strength to strength. Long may it continue. There's plenty of buzz out there, and while it's buzzing, we'll keep buzzing with it.
So if you could sum up the company and the way you kind of try to run your business on a daily basis, what would they be?
It's a young, vibrant company. We're always looking for new staff, and we're very good at training them, I believe. Our staff are long-term players. They stay with us, the right calibre of people. We have the facility to train new people coming across from Ireland or wherever, and we're very interested in that.
Is there a website they can log on to?
Yes, Killoughery.eu. That'll find us, and check it out.
We're going to take a break right now. We'll do come back to it for the second half of the show. You're very welcome back to the show. Founded by Donegal native Teresa Gallagher, ICAP are one of the largest community support organisations here in London. They do amazing work for people in times of crisis on a daily basis. We went along to the Stationers' Hall in St Paul's for their annual dinner and charity auction.
ICAP began in 1996. Actually, it's his 21st birthday this year and next, and it began just out of a real dearth of any kind of mental health service to Irish people here in the UK. And when I came over here to do postgraduate work in psychotherapy, I was formerly a counsellor and a secondary school teacher, and I qualified then as a psychotherapist. And I came over here to do postgraduate study, and it was while I was here that I noticed the horrendous lack of any kind of mental health service for our Irish people. And I also became very aware that all other services were available. There's plenty of welfare services, plenty of housing associations, all of that, job opportunities, but no one was looking at why people were down in themselves, or why their lives were dysfunctional in the first place, and why they had to use these services. No one was looking at the core problems that caused these people to be on the fringes of society in many cases.
I became involved with ICAP at the very, very start when Teresa Gallagher set up a wonderful operation up in Tollington Road, and I visited her there once, and at that time I was working with Bank of Ireland. I had the ability to do a bit of sponsorship and help, and I got involved from then on.
When I was starting up initially, people were saying to me, Irish people won't use psychotherapy, particularly Irish men. They keep everything close to their chest. In fact, within 5 years, we were the psychotherapy service in England that had the most males using the service. So Irish men, we discovered, were very well able and probably felt safer using the service away from home, because people are afraid that their secrets will get out there. And I think once they realised it was a totally confidential and very professional service, they came in droves to it really and continue to come and use it.
My role at ICAP, I work as a counsellor, so I work sessionally, and I see clients once a week for short term, sometimes very long term. and see people, really for them to have an opportunity to talk through what's been going on in life, really. Many of the clients I see would have been people who've had very difficult experiences and very painful experiences. And of course, one of the things that strikes me very important, really, is that often carries on into their children and onto the next generation. So it feels really important to kind of stop that, to give them a place to talk about it, but also be helped to manage life, and often in very difficult circumstances.
If one person gets their life right in every field, emotionally, psychologically, they tend to get it right, financially and relationally and every other way. And so the impact of one person getting the help they need to deal with their issues has far-reaching consequences. And in the workplace, in the family relationships, with their children, with their partner, and particularly with their own selves, in themselves. They feel good about themselves, so they're more productive, they're happier people. And that has a spin-off effect. So you have this massive ripple effect of one person getting things right. And that's where ICAP really believes in the one-to-one therapy. Having said that, we also provide group work. We've done lots of men's groups and women's groups where people can, in a collective setting, come to terms with issues that they're dealing with and share their problems, and again, total confidentiality and all of that's in place.
There's quite a cross-section of people who come to ICAP, mostly all Irish people, and people who've never had a voice before and wouldn't have an opportunity given to them like in ICAP. And also really people who are very, very damaged and feel sort of isolated in society are able to come for quite a long period of time as well. They're sort of not, you've had your space and that's it. So we allow those people to feel, and they can come back and come again, and it's really very important for them to feel like that, accepted.
A friend of mine who's in difficulties, and Teresa and her team helped him greatly, and it's fascinating that 15 years later he came back and he's been very helpful to the organisation. And that's the kind of stuff they've been doing. The work ICAP have been doing for the last 15 years is outstanding, and the fact that they do up to about 8,000 to 9,000 counselling sessions a year with Irish people primarily who are in very difficult circumstances. And the work they do is just wonderful. And I've seen real-life examples of it, although obviously it's all very discreet and private from the people who are concerned.
Speaking about a woman, it's somebody who had a major drink problem, but she was alcoholic basically, but she came and sometimes fell off the wagon again and came back and came and did come and has been dry now for 4 years, and that for me is wonderful, which has also had an impact on her adult children. So that feels really important, because stopping it generationally feels hugely important.
It's wonderful to see what they've been doing with what the women have been doing, particularly in the ladies who come through the Magdalen laundry system, those who left Ireland in very difficult circumstances. And that's why I'm so proud and pleased after nearly 15 years to be still actively involved with an organisation like this.
There was a man who spent a lifetime in an institution, his early life, his childhood and adolescence, then married, but never told anyone what had happened, didn't tell his wife, and he had a very good wife, a very good relationship. And eventually, for various reasons, which I won't go into, but it became too much for him. So he came along and he talked, and he found it made a huge difference to his life. The relief for being able to say it and talk about it, and find the good in himself. There was a lot of good in him, but he couldn't find that really. But being able to do that made an enormous difference for him. He's somebody who stands out, and he was an older man who'd never done anything like this before, but just felt I can do this, and it gave him a huge relief.
The event here tonight is an annual event. It's the night in the year when we all get on our glad rags and we all become very Irish on the night. And even though ICAP isn't exclusively for Irish people, it's there for anyone who wants to avail of the service. But Irish people here in London and further afield, because we're a national organisation, they come and they support us year after year after year.
So I was asked to join the Board of Trustees about 18 months ago, which was a great privilege. And I guess it's been a move to bring in some of the younger broom of trustees, some with professional skills and qualifications. I'm an employment lawyer by training, and they wanted someone with employment and personnel expertise to help the board.
Tonight is all about raising funds. We have other events during the calendar year, but the February one is the big one to raise funds, basically. And so, you know, we look forward to people bidding well for our prizes and raising as much money and being as generous as they possibly can. And also, I think we're very privileged because we've grown from that to where we are this evening. And that was, you know, people liking what ICAP does and being very interested in the work of ICAP and happy to support us, actually. So we've got some very, very loyal supporters who come along to everything and help us, you know. So I feel, for me, as an individual, it's a great privilege to be part of ICAP because I very much believe in what they do, and they do it so well.
And Teresa, tell us about the book of poetry that you've recently published.
The book of poetry really is a result of a tidy out of my own house, really, where I find bits and pieces of poetry that I'd written over the years. So I'm always looking for ways to fundraise for ICAP. For instance, I did the mini marathon early on this year, and I decided to put them all together, and I had the launch of the book then in Letterkenny, my own hometown.
So you're going to give us one of the poems out from that book?
Well, the title of the book is Reading the Moment. It's just being sensitive, really, to the moment. But I dedicated the whole book to ICAP, and I've just written this little poem, and it's called Healing Shattered Lives. Planks on top of planks, with old bricks and blocks, men from home and foreign parts engaging the art, making, breaking, stirring the cement, knowing much more, knowing the intent, stirring, painting, lives from many parts, engaging the art of a new way of living, a new kind of start.
And anybody watching tonight that is feeling a bit lower, a bit lonely, or a little bit depressed, what advice would you give them?
I would say to them it would be important for them to make contact with us in ICAP at Finsbury Park, and we'd be welcome to be there to receive and help them. So that would be really, you know, an offer for them.
And if people want to find out more about the organisation, how can they do that?
If they want to find out more, they can go onto the website www.icap.org.uk, and they'll get all the information they need. They can also contact ICAP in our central offices in Finsbury Park, and they'll find that 0207 272 7906, or the West Midlands office in Birmingham. And there's always people who can put them in contact with whatever they need, whatever kind of support they need.
Well, many thanks there to Teresa Gallagher and indeed all at ICAP for inviting us along there to their event. If you'd like to contact the show, send an email to ian@irishtv.ie. You can also find us on Facebook and on Twitter. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have right now, but do come back to us next week when we'll be out and about in the UK.